Welcome, everyone. Lean in Toronto acknowledges that the land we meet on is a traditional territory of many nations, including the Mississaugas of the Credit, the Anishinaabeg, the Chippewa, the Haudenosaunee, and the Wendat people, and is now home to many diverse First Nations, Inuit, and Métis peoples. We also acknowledge that Toronto is covered by Treaty 13 with the Mississaugas of the Credit, and as a Canadian chapter, we have a duty to acknowledge our relationship to the land upon which we live and work in privilege, and to prioritize initiatives that support reconciliation with local Indigenous communities. I recommend everyone here with us today to check native-land.ca, which I'll put in the chat, and learn which territory you are currently in. Thank you all for joining us today for our session with Leslie Ehm. And before we meet Leslie, I want to introduce you to our amazing moderator, Chidima. Chidima leads our finance team at Lean in Toronto. She arrived in Canada in 2016 and was nominated for an award with WXN for Top 100 Women in Canada in 2020. She is passionate about helping people become their best selves at work and within her community. As a volunteer, she holds 2 leadership roles in 2 organizations, along with her senior manager role with one of Canada's top 5 banks. She does all of this with the active support of her husband and 3 amazing and energetic sons. She is the definition of a superwoman. Thank you, Chidima, for leading us today. Round of applause. Now I will pass it on to my teammate, Jasmine.
Thanks, Yasmin. Today, I would like to introduce our guest speaker, Leslie Ehm. Leslie is a former TV host turned training guru, speaker, and swagger coach who has discovered the secret into tapping into your authentic self and turning it into a superpower at work and in life. Now, she's the Wall Street Journal and USA Today bestselling author of Swagger, Unleash Everything You Are and Become Everything You Want. Leslie has spent the last 14 years traveling the globe, training senior execs and teams from Fortune 100 companies like Google, PepsiCo, Uber, Disney, TD Bank, Lenovo, and more. She's turned technologists into creative forces, bankers into storytellers, and has brought a serious dose of badassness to boardrooms everywhere. Leslie's been called better than therapy, a rock star, ass-kicking, a force of nature, and even a witch. Please join me in welcoming the incredible Leslie Ehm.
Hello, my beautiful Lean In women. This is so lovely to be able to talk to so many amazing women. And of course, they're male allies. But I mean, there's a lot of estrogen up in here, and it makes me very, very happy to be a part of this. So thank you all for coming. Do you guys ever wonder, how is it that some people just seem to be so charismatic? They have this comfort in their skin. They walk into a room, and even if they're understated, all eyes are on them, and they just seem to have this easy breezy way about them, but they're unignorable. What is it that they have that the rest of us don't have? What is the secret to that? Well, I'm here to tell you today. The secret is swagger. But I'm not talking about that old show-offy, arrogant, peacock in your face kind of jam. That is not the kind of swagger that I am all about. I have redefined the word to mean the ability to manifest who you really are and hold on to it in the face of all of that psychological crap that's going to come for it, regardless of the situation or environment. So it means that you have one truth, one face, one heart, and you show up with it wherever you are, and most importantly, whatever challenges you might be facing. I want to tell you about a guy who experienced what it's like to discover their swagger. I want you to imagine I'm training a group of male financial services executives. So there's a bunch of dudes, and they are classic. I mean, we're talking about the sport coat, the shirt, the slacks, the salt and pepper hair, and that air that a lot of these guys have about them. Now, they're really not prepared for what's about to hit them, because when you come into my training room, things are going to get really real. And I started this presentation skills training, as I always do, by asking everyone to come up one by one and pull a little talking strip out of a hat, and then tell a story based on that talking strip, just to get things going, and so that I can get a read on who is in that room and where are we starting from. So I say, okay, who wants to go first? And you could literally hear the testicles shriveling. I'm like, come on, guys, who wants to step up first? Bring it, right? And they all look nervously at each other. And eventually, one guy puts his hand up and goes, I'll go first. I was like, great, come on up. So he comes to the front of the room. He introduces himself as Tony. Hey, great to meet you, Tony. All right, pull a strip out of the hat and let's hear your story. So he does as told. And the second he starts to talk, he turns into this good time Charlie. He's got the fingers like pistols. He's strutting back and forth across the room. I mean, male action front. And I watched him in abject horror. And I was like, what? What? Whoa, stop. Finally, I said, Tony, stop. What is this? What's all of this action? He said, well, I don't know what you mean. I'm presenting. I'm working the room. I said, no, Tony, you've got to drop it. He said, what do you mean? I said, when I look at you, what I see is the guy who owns the cottage next to me. And it's 5:00 in the morning and I go out to go fishing, because I actually do like to go fishing. And I discovered that my boat won't start. But I go over to your place, knock on your door, and you'll come out in your t-shirt and your boxers. You won't just come and help me start my boat. You might drink a beer and then come fishing with me. Am I right? Tony's jaw just drops. He said, how can you tell that? I said, Tony, I see you. He said, but how can you tell from what I was doing? I said, here's the thing. I could see past what you were doing. I could see everything you were trying to hide. You've got to drop the front and just get real with me. So I want you to talk about something that's important to you. Are you in? He said, yeah. I said, right, we're getting ready to go. 3, 2, 1, go. His mouth opened and closed a few times, kind of like a fish. And then he started to talk. And he said, my mother, and then the most guttural sob came out of his mouth. He clamped his hands over his mouth in total shock. And I said, Tony, keep going. Tony started to talk about his amazing mother, who had come over from Italy and raised her 3 boys in Canada, and the challenges that she had faced as an immigrant raising her sons, and all of the sacrifices that she had made, and how she had really instilled in them a true sense of what it meant to be a man, a good man, and how essential she was to his sense of self. And as he's telling this beautiful story, tears are streaming down his face. He keeps sobbing. He has to turn his back to the room. People are getting up from the room and patting him on the back and hugging him. And I kept saying, keep going, Tony, keep going. And as the story unfolded, Tony revealed that his mother had recently passed away. And ever since she had died, he had felt like a piece of himself was missing. And he no longer knew who he was as a man. When he finished his story, there was not a dry eye in the house. Tears are streaming down my face. I am moved beyond belief. And Tony is standing there in complete shock. And I run over and I wrap my arms around him in this big, big hug. And he puts his face in my neck and he says, I don't know what happened. I don't know what happened. I said, I do. You just found your swagger. Now, a lot of you might be thinking that if you had been the Tony in this situation, you would have spent the next 3 days at home from work, suffering from the embarrassment flu. You might have been planning how you could change your job, your role, your division, your discipline, your country, so that you didn't have to face all of these people again. And you really might have been afraid that your life would have changed as of that moment. And in some ways, you'd be right, because Tony's life did change that day, but not in the way that you might imagine. Nothing bad happened. In fact, everyone in that room was more deeply connected to Tony, and he understood that he could reveal to people who he really was and still be accepted by them. I have traveled all over the world. I have trained countless companies, Fortune 100, up and down, every culture, every level of executive, from CEOs down to interns. I have seen it all. And in those years, I've discovered one fundamental human truth. People do not believe that they can reveal who they really are and still achieve the success that they're dreaming of, because they don't believe that who they are is really good enough to allow them to achieve their dreams. The other thing that I've learned in all of these years is that the absolute opposite is true. The more you can be yourself at work, the more you can be yourself in your work, and the more success you will find. But that message comes loud and clear to us, and it's really hard to quiet that noise. Now, what I have learned is that your swagger, the ability to manifest who you really are and hold on to it, is in truth your superpower. All of those things that you may imagine as being the messy, vulnerable, not shiny, imperfect qualities about yourself, the unique, the quirky, the unusual, all of those things are the very things that make you magical and special, differentiated and powerful. It is time to drop the front and start stepping in to this place called swagger. We want to be accepted so desperately, we will do just about anything to achieve it. We think it's the only way that we're going to achieve our goals. But let me tell you, as soon as you get into that paradigm of pretending to be someone or something you're not, I'm telling you, all bets are off. It will inevitably come and bite you in the ass. So one of the pieces of advice that I'm sure all of you have heard, I'm going to recommend that you never, ever listen to it again. Fake it till you make it does not work. In fact, fake it till you make it can get you into so much trouble that it's a hole that you end up having to climb out of. The reason it doesn't work is because the thing that you're trying to fake is confidence. The only way that you can actually achieve legitimate confidence is as a result of legitimate competence. Only by doing something over and over and over again and proving to your highly resistant brain that you have a baseline, a foundation of capability, will you start to experience this thing called confidence that we all so desperately want, so badly that we are willing to fake it. But if we walk around telling everybody that we've already got it, I got it on lock, I know what I'm talking about, oh yeah, been there, done it, experienced it, I've got it, we lose the most important tool that we have in developing the competence to have confidence, and that's the ability to ask for help. As soon as we pretend that we already know, asking for help outs us as not knowing it all. So it keeps us trapped in that place of, I don't know, but I cannot tap into the beautiful minds that surround me. People who have more expertise, more experience, more wisdom, and say, hey, amazing human, might I sit at your feet and learn from you and become more competent so I can experience more confidence? And by the way, if you ask people like that, everybody's going to say yes. And if you're super duper smart, you will turn around and tell everybody how you learned from this person and built your competence and how amazing and generous they were in helping you. Because then everybody else wants to be the next person that you talk about that way. So we don't want to pretend that we're anywhere other than we are in our journey. There seems to have there's this culture has inflicted shame upon us for where we are in our journey. We all imagine we should be 2, 3, 4, 5 years ahead of where we are, despite the fact that 2, 3, 4, 5 years ago, we were somewhere else. We have grown and evolved and changed, but we're always imagining that we'll be better later. No, we're amazing now. And yes, we will be even better later. But we need to start accepting and owning where we are in our journey and not apologizing for it and not allowing others to make us feel like we should be anywhere other than we currently are. There's also a dangerous side effect to the fake it till you make it, and that's called the Dunning-Kruger effect. Stanford did a huge study on this. What happens to people when they start smoking their own crack, as it were, when they start believing their own hype a little too much when they're faking it? And what happens to them is that not only do they start to literally brainwash themselves into believing they are more competent than they truly are, but as a result, they start to really not be able to make good decisions because by definition, those decisions are largely uninformed. But they're not going to ask anybody for help because they would be outed as not knowing. So there's dangerous side effects to that. The other thing too is that when we get to this place of confidence that stems from competence, we don't want to leave so fast because that's a nice place to be. But anytime we want to learn and grow and evolve, we have to leave our place of confidence and go back into that confidence building paradigm in order to get better. And if we get too safe in confidence, we're not going to grow. And we become not just stagnant, but paralyzed, because taking that risk back into the unknown can be a scary place as opposed to falling in love with it. So what my recommendation is to everybody is don't fake it till you make it. Feel it till you find it. And never be ashamed of where you are in your journey. We all come into the world a swagger-filled badass, each and every one of us. You ask any little kid, they're going to tell you, I'm the best, I'm the most beautiful, I'm the most awesome, I can do anything. But then life comes. And little by little, it starts to kick the crap out of that swagger. And it can come from the places that we trust the most. It can come from our families, the voices that we hear in our homes. And it's not meant to hurt us. It's meant to protect us, but it has a way of making us smaller. You know, we all know the parents who say, oh, we're not for that. You know, we don't come from that. We shouldn't stretch for that. That's not really how we roll. And we believe it because the people who we trust most are telling us that that's the case. And then we go to school, and school tries to fit us into a little tiny, appeasable, approachable little box, right? Don't stick your head up too high. Don't make waves. And then we have relationships. And then we go into the workplace. And little by little, we become a sum of all of the voices that are coming at us from the external. And we start to wonder, who am I? And how did this happen to me? Where did I go? What happened to me? Swagger is about reconnecting with who you really are. It's not about self-assuredness. It's about self-acceptance. It's about recognizing everything that you are and falling back in love with it and recognizing that you already have everything that you need. That's what swagger is. And it doesn't matter what has happened in the past. You are not your history. You are the stories you tell yourself. And you have the power to change and update that narrative whenever you want. Because if you let the world become that narrative, you are simply a reflection of their opinions of yourself, not the truth, their opinions. And remember, everybody's opinions are based on their bias, their perspective, their damage, their baggage. It's the equivalent of going into the airport, going up to the baggage carousel, picking up somebody's random bag off the carousel, dragging it home with you, unpacking it, taking out their dirty underwear and putting it on your head. We do not need to wear other people's baggage. We are not our history. We are the stories we tell ourselves. Now, unleashing swagger is not easy. Trust and believe. Okay? I'm not going to tell you. It's not a switch that you flip. It's not something you just wake up one day and go, that's it. I'm going to have my swagger. It's all good. Those challenges that have stopped your swagger for all of these years are cemented in the human condition. They are the blockers. We all face them. It is natural. It is normal. There is nothing wrong with you if your swagger is blocked. But there are ways to work through them once you understand those things that are holding you back. We learn how to navigate and negotiate through them so they stop blocking us. They just become good checks and balances for our life. So I want you to imagine that the real you, let me move over here a little bit so you can see my pretty diagrams. I want you to imagine that the real you is trapped deep inside. It's the you that your best girlfriend from high school knows intimately. Maybe your family knows if you're lucky, maybe your partner knows. It's the place that comes out to play when you feel 100% safe. That is the real you, okay? And now I want you to imagine that we have these concentric circles that are blocking our swagger from reaching the world. So we're going to start from the outside in. Let's go to the blocker that is closest to the world, but furthest away from the real us. And that's persona. That's that feeling that we need to walk, talk, act, and behave a certain way in order to be accepted by the world. It's that heavy coat we put on every morning before we go into work. It's that game face. It's the language we choose. It's the way that we carry ourselves. And we recognize that it is very different than who we are when we're at our most chill. Persona literally coming from the word mask. Right? So persona is the first blocker. It's the last place that your swagger is going to get stuck, but it's the place that everyone is going to see. The next layer in, somewhat surprisingly, is ambition. Now, don't get me wrong. I am all for ambition. I am all for achieving. I am all for aspiration, but not when it comes at the cost of your authenticity. Ambition has a way of changing us, and we end up fixating upwards on the next rung of the ladder, instead of focusing inwards on who we are as a human being, focusing left and right on our colleagues and our peers, and most importantly, perhaps, focusing on the people who are our followers, the people who will lift us to the places that we dream of being. So if ambition is causing you to act in ways that are not authentic to you, then what you achieve in the end will be shallow. It will not validate you. It will not fill you up. So instead, focus on being in your place of excellence, and not just for yourself, but for the collective and the greater good. And those ambitions will be realized, and they will be realized with authenticity and with swagger. But you can see how ambition reinforces the need for persona. The next layer in is insecurity. Insecurity is all the what ifs. What if I don't walk, talk, act, behave a certain way? What's going to happen? And boy, oh boy, your brain does not like the uncertainty of that. It will choose to err on the side of caution every single time. It will assume the worst. It's like keeping you in an emotional spin dryer while the podcast from hell plays in your ear, right? It is where all those negative tapes live, and it's where the imposter syndrome lives. And the reason that it is so interconnected to ambition is because we tell ourselves, if we get that title, if we get that acknowledgement, that the voices of insecurity will quiet. For the record, they will not, just so as you know. I've worked with a lot of CEOs that still suffer from massive insecurity. But now we have insecurity reinforcing ambition, reinforcing persona. The next layer in is fear. Fear is the answer to the what if. What if I don't walk, talk, act, dress, behave a certain way? Fear is going to tell you bad things will happen. Bad, terrible, awful things will happen, because the brain will go to the absolute worst case scenario to prepare you for the worst, because that's its job, is to protect you. So it will tell you you will end up homeless on the street, when in reality, the worst thing that's going to happen is you might get a side eye from somebody else in the room. But fear cannot differentiate between a tiger is going to eat me fear and a side eye fear. So when your swagger tries to go through fear, oh boy, is it going to get a beat down. It's going to say, don't do it. Bad things are going to happen. You're going to get eaten by that societal tribal tiger. You're going to be in trouble, girl. Right? So now we have fear reinforcing insecurity, reinforcing ambition, reinforcing persona. The last layer in is the doozy. It is the castle gates. It is the moat. Pain. Because pain is proof. Pain is, I tried that one time, did not go well, and I am never doing that again. But here is the secret to pain. Pain does not have context. It will hold on to the memory of the when and the where and the circumstance under which it occurred. And it will bring that with it. So if you were in grade 4 and doing a presentation on tree frogs, and everybody was laughing at you and you couldn't figure out why, and after you found out you had a giant booger hanging out of your nose, and for the next 6 months people called you boogerhead, every time you get up in front of a room to present, all you're going to be hearing in your brain is boogerhead, boogerhead, boogerhead. And you will not be able to convince yourself that you're a grown-ass adult and you don't have a booger and it's all good, because that's what pain will do to us. And it is rock solid. So it will block you every time, because we don't like pain. We will do anything to move away from pain and towards pleasure. Now, so pain reinforcing fear, reinforcing insecurity, reinforcing ambition, reinforcing persona. And there's you stuck on the inside, trying to navigate and negotiate your way out like the freaking American Ninja Gauntlet, getting an ass kicking on the way out and taking an ass kicking as messages try to get back in. But if we see and recognize these blockers for what they are, we can start to break them down little piece by little piece by little piece, not eating the whole pie. We can't eat the whole pie. We have to break it down bite by bite by bite to make it manageable and doable. And believe me, it is doable. And there's 3 secret weapons that you have at your disposal in the fight to unleash your swagger. And the first is your truth. It's all we got in this world, ladies and gents, is our truth. We are our words and our deeds. We ain't got nothing else. So the ability to learn how to speak our truth is critical to expressing our swagger. And the key to speaking our truth is that it cannot be solely for us. You can't just run around with your hair on fire screaming, I must speak my truth, and expect people to give a damn, because they won't. So we have to learn how to reframe our truth in such a way that it's not just good for us, but it's good for the collective and it's good for the greater good. And there is always a way to do that. You just got to get smart about it. And you've got to apply that strategy to the when do I speak my truth, where, and to whom, because you want your truth to land. You don't stifle it. You don't suppress it. You don't change it. You get smart about your truth to make sure that it lands. Your next secret weapon is your intention. It's your why. Why do I want to say this or do this? Why do I want to express this? Why do I want to be heard? Why do I want to create change? Because your intention stops you from being an asshole. Because if your intention is to make yourself bigger in order to make somebody else smaller, you're going to get what you deserve. Haha, sorry, sucker. It's not going to go well for you. If you're trying to call somebody out because, payback's a bitch, no, it's not going to go well for you. You have to know your why. And again, if your why is to contribute positively to not just yourself, but the collective and the greater good, and you are clear on that intention, you get a lot of leeway in this life. And if you're ever worried that people don't get your intention, tell them what your intention is, and then own it and follow it. So truth and intention. The third secret weapon is self-belief. Because here is a little secret. You don't need to have confidence in order to have self-belief. They are two completely different things. Self-belief does not require competence. It's a feeling that you decide for yourself. You don't run around saying that you have skills that you don't. That's not what self-belief is. Self-belief is simply knowing that you can step off the cliff into the unknown and you're not going to die. And it allows you to take the steps that you need to take to gain that competence that leads to confidence. And you know you're worth it, and no one or nothing can tell you otherwise. Self-belief, not external validation, only the self. So if you believe that you are worthy, which by the way, for the record, you all are, every single beautiful person in this room right now, all of you are worthy of self-belief. It's a choice that you make. So the beautiful thing about Swagger is that it's utterly attainable. Utterly attainable. It's just the choice that you have to make to start doing the work. That's my purpose in life, is helping people to understand how to break it down into bite-sized, manageable little chunks that they can work through every single day. Because Swagger is not a moment. It's not a switch that you flip. It's a journey. And it's a journey that you can all attain. Your swagger is waiting for you. The only question is, what are you waiting for? Now is your turn to ask me anything. Ask me anything.
Wow, this has been such a powerful session, Leslie. Like, I don't know about other people, but I have like 3 pages of notes just scribbling. There was so many moments of truth that you dropped there, and I'm conscious of times. I'm going to go straight to the questions. I'm going to start with something you said just a couple of minutes ago, which is self-belief, how we break out and break into our swagger. Now, you said self-belief doesn't require competence. Now, for me, that was the first time I've ever heard it put that way. I always think that I'll believe in myself based on what I thought I could do. Something you also said earlier was that our thoughts about ourselves is the sum of all of the voices that we hear in our head. I want you to help me understand how this works. As you gave the analogy of us being children and growing up and hearing the things that our parents have told to us, trying to fit into the molds that, the school system has set up for us. And then we get into the workplace, we try to fit the persona that we feel like a professional should have. Now, when you've gotten lost in all of that noise, what is the best way to take back your power? How do you then begin to rediscover yourself in spite of all of that noise around you?
Well, as I said, it's a journey. So I'm not gonna sugarcoat it and tell you that it's just this easy thing. But the very, very first step is wanting it. You have to want it. If you're happy, content, willing to stay trapped inside and to not be heard in this world, then no tools or techniques in the world are going to help you. You have to recognize that something is screaming on the inside of you and saying, this is not enough. This is not enough. I need to take up more space. I need to be heard. I need to own my place in the world. And the world deserves to see all of me. There is so much more to me than I am sharing with the world. And I deserve more, and people deserve more of me. I'm very much about, I always caveat everything with it's good for me, but it's also good for the collective and for the greater good. I will say that over and over and over again, because that's how our power truly manifests in the world, because it picks up speed, it picks up intensity through the support of others. We don't want to be arrogant assholes,
Yeah.
walking around saying, filling up our own cups. It's not about that at all. So first of all, you have to want it. Second of all, you've got to be willing to do the work because it's going to scare the shit out of you. You're going to have to go into those places that have been scary for you, been daunting for you, been overwhelming. The places that you feel are so risky to step into. I mean, the story we tell ourselves about the massive repercussions from small steps.
Yeah.
Like the terror that we've all experienced in a meeting, for example, where we have something so important to say, we're hearing stuff going on around us, and we say, I have something so important to contribute, but I'm so afraid that someone is going to take it the wrong way, or there's going to be blowback, or there's going to be whatever. And it's not even something radical. It's just something that I feel needs to be said. And the moment passes because we're paralyzed by that fear and we don't do it. And we spend a lot of time walking around going, oh, I wish I had said, or I wish I had done, or I wish. That's my like sort of clue to all of you, is that if you find yourself doing that a lot, saying, oh shit, I wish I'd said that, or I wish I had done that. If that's something that's happening to you over and over again, your swagger is speaking loud and clear to you and saying, let me the hell out. I have things to say. And you're going to have your very first swagger moment at some point, which is going to require a deep breath and a stealing of your center. And you just have to freaking do it. Because only by doing it once will you see that bad things will not happen. So your fear diminishes just a tiny bit. And then you do it again and you realize that bad things don't happen. In fact, good things happen and your fear diminishes just a little bit. And so on and so on. So one of the things that I recommend in the book is start by identifying where your swagger is getting stuck specifically. Because otherwise it just feels like this giant mountain that you got to climb. And nobody climbs Everest just by going straight up. You go little base camp by base camp by base camp. You take rests. You've got to get used to the air up there. There's a lot of things that you're going to have to adjust to, right? So you don't want to go running up the mountain. It's a way to fail. So unleashing your swagger is the same thing, incremental, and recognizing your wins, recognizing the moments, the smallest moments of your own swagger achievement as defined by you and in context to what you have not been doing so far, and owning the crap out of those. Like celebrating, recognizing it, goes, yay, I did it. You go tell someone, you share it on social, hashtag swagger moment. Like I talk to people at a networking event. It's not something I usually do, but I just took a big breath and I went, that is a swagger moment. All of those things. We got to have mad love for ourselves and recognize that our journey is hard and that we can do it incrementally and it will add up. So that was the very long answer to the very short but lovely question.
Oh no, but that was a great one. That was a great one. And it's also a segue to the next question I have. In the beginning, you said that swagger is our ability to manifest who we really are everywhere and anywhere. Now, towards the end, you also made mention that we have to know how to frame our truth. So does that mean that there are instances where you withhold your swagger and then instances where you show up in your swagger? Because we had some questions around that too.
I think it's about, you start to get smart. The question I want you to ask yourselves is my swagger, is my truth gonna land right now? Okay. And if it's not, the next question you should be asking yourself is, what's the situation that I can create or that I can go and find where it will land? So again, I'm going to use, something in a business setting. If there are 5 people in the room and speaking your truth is going to piss one person off, alienate another person, and make somebody else, feel uncomfortable, you go, okay, so maybe I'm not going to say it now. I'm still going to say it, but I might not say it right. So now I'm going to wait until the meeting's over, go find the best person to have that conversation with, and have that conversation then and there. Your truth still gets heard, but you have much more of a chance of it landing than it causing more problems than it's worth. But as you get better at that, you will start to learn how to also position your truth in the moment. That's another reason that intention can be such a practical tool. Because if you say, look, I know that what I'm about to say is going to be a little contentious and it might make you feel a little uncomfortable. That is not my intention. My intention is to try and open the discussion in a way that we can all get involved, because I think if we don't talk about this, it could make things more difficult down the road. Are you guys open to that? And then people kind of go, okay, she just took the sting out of it. She's not dropping a bomb on us, but we can still open the discussion. So I've used that because I'm, anybody who knows me will tell you, I'm straight down the middle. I've learned to be fearless in that moment, but I'm very aware of other people's swagger blockers.
Oh,
And that's what I'm trying to respect. I don't want to scare people. I don't want to make people feel insecure. I don't want to jeopardize their ambition. I don't want to cause them pain. I don't want to call out their mask. I want to allow their swagger to come out and play with mine.
Wow.
So you got to have compassion for other humans,
Yeah, that's great. Thank you. So we take the uncomfortable out of the conversation and make everyone come out to play. So I'm going to add 2 questions from the audience in one. One says, studies have shown that women are more likely to receive feedback in the workplace during performance reviews around specific style. Too optimistic, too emotive, too aggressive. What would your advice be, as this feels like crushing the swagger? And I'll quickly add to that. What is your advice on something we can do daily to make sure that we are in our swagger? Do you think affirmations help?
Okay, I'm just going to try and focus myself. I don't know why I'm not focused. Oh, there I am. Okay, good. That's a little trick, by the way. If you ever get out of focus, you just put your hand over the camera for a second. First of all, my grandmother used to say to me, Leslie, from whom it comes.
Ooh.
So I always put a lens over everything that other people say to me, and I consider who it's coming from. I also recognize the difference between criticism and feedback. Criticism is just words being talked at you. Feedback is advice or recommendations that can help you to be better, but only if the person is as invested in your success as you are. So if someone else has an agenda, right away I put my lens over it. I go, from whom it comes, So sometimes I just go, sure, great, fantastic, right? And I just don't even let it go in, because that's the dirty underwear on my head. That's other people's baggage, other people's shit, So if someone's trying to control me and someone's trying to make me smaller or whatever, that's on them. You do you, boo, I say to them, and I'm going to do me. That's all good. That's not got anything to do with me. So in those circumstances, what I will do is, and again, you have to really, it's hard. This is where the compassion comes in. Because even though you want to pop them in the face because they're talking crap, and they're talking crap, it's not going to your truth is not going to land. So I, with all compassion, say, okay, so talk to me about how this is making you feel uncomfortable. Can you help me to understand why this is making you uncomfortable, or why you're perceiving this as difficult? I want to understand more, because I could talk to somebody else and they tell me that that's not an issue, but for you, this is clearly an issue. So talk to me about why that makes you feel uncomfortable. What is this? Because this is not feedback I hear from others. This is not a universal, opinion. This is your opinion, but I want to hear why. I'm open. And then it makes people accountable for their because people got to be accountable. You can't just say shit. You got to back it up with something. And then it also opens the door to a much bigger conversation. Because if I discover that something that I'm doing is making someone else feel uncomfortable, that's a great thing for me to know. It's not my intention to make people feel uncomfortable, but I also want to know if it's because of their baggage and their shit. And then maybe I can help them. Maybe I can help them to say, it sounds to me like we could work together on that. Because I don't, I like that about myself, but I don't want to make you feel badly. So how can we fix this? Let's fix it. I'm not going to stop being me, but let's fix it. I don't want to make you feel uncomfortable. I got you, brother or sister, and then people go, oh my God, we're all in it together. Yay.
Wow, that's great. And there was a question too from the audience around when you're in an environment that is not supportive. How do you then present yourself as you fully are. There's a tendency that you feel a need to protect yourself. So just going by this example that you gave, when you were actually trying to have a conversation and the other party is not coming to the table with you, then is that a moment where you keep your truth to yourself?
Well, look, I'm a big advocate of this life that we have is not a rehearsal. We get one go around the carousel. You know, we don't get to have these big do-overs for these periods in our lives. And if we truly believe that we are in an environment that will not, under any circumstances, accept our swagger, even if we help other people to do it and coach them and support them, and we accept their swagger, but they will not accept ours, pick your fine ass up and go somewhere else at the end of the day, because this is not a prison. None of us are shackled to anything. And if you truly, truly believe that, then you got to go. But I find that that happens less often than we think. I think recognizing that everybody is trapped in the same paradigm as we are, you know, is a big wake-up call. And I think helping other people to feel safer can create a safer environment for everybody. So you can't say, I can't release my swagger because no one else is, because then you're all trapped. So you got to say, I'm going to go first, and I'm going to show people what a beautiful thing it is, and I'm going to support everybody else and have mad love and respect for everybody else. And maybe you're going to be the change that you want to see in the world. You know, Swagger Gandhi. Right?
That's interesting.
If you truly, truly, I mean, it's really hard because any culture that we're in, any work culture, and culture is just a collective of human beings. It's not some chemical ether that exists in the air. It's a collective of human beings. And not all human beings are the same, and they don't all follow the same rules. So we need to find the people who are more transparent with us, who do show their vulnerability, who do have a little bit of swagger. And we want to align ourselves with them and get the support that we need and help to change the environment for other people. You know, if you're listening and you're a leader, your job is to put a big heavy paw on anyone or any situation you see that is inhibiting somebody else's swagger. And if somebody is working on their swagger and they're a little clumsy about it, take them aside, show them mad love for the fact that they're on their journey, and give them a few tips. You know, I love that you did this. This is great. I want you to keep doing that, blah, blah, blah. Little piece of advice. When you're doing that, think about this so that your truth really lands, you know? Come talk to me before the meeting and I can help you with that, or whatever it is. Be super optimistic and positive about it and help to build it. Because if you show them how to do it, they will show others how to do it, from leadership down. And before you know it, the environment is changing. I've seen it happen.
Yeah. It's like you just answered one of the questions too. Like quite a number of people ask that question, like how do they help other people to become more authentic and live their authentic stuff? And I think the answer is just you be authentic, and then you give people permission, the people around you the permission to be authentic.
Well, that's the thing, is that people think they need permission, but they don't. They can only give permission to themselves. So if they see you giving permission to yourself, that's implicit. Like, oh, I'm gonna give permission to myself, and let's see how this goes. And I think too, it's to say it out loud, to say that I am here to support your individuality. I'm here to support all of you. You know, I understand that we're all complex human beings. We all have challenges. We all got stuff, and I'm here to support all of it. So never be afraid to bring it to me, to show it to me, to share it with me, because I will show respect for that. And just say that out loud to people. You know, because sometimes we don't even think that we need to. We think that it's implied, or we think that it'll make people feel uncomfortable, whatever. No, keep saying it over and over and over again, but then back it up with your behavior. You know, in my experience, being a leader has always been having the strongest back, the biggest wings, to protect your people and to support your people and give them the space to grow and to evolve. There's no mark of a leader that is greater than watching people that you have led come to your level or even rise above you. That's the mark of a great leader.
Yeah. So now that brings it to the last question for you, Leslie. What was the aha moment for you? What was that thing that happened, that moment that made you realize I have to be my authentic self? I have to live and walk in my swagger. Could you share that with us?
I think for me, I came into the world kicking and screaming. And I kind of did the opposite of what a lot of people do. I refused to allow the world to take it from me. I just refused. And I was very fortunate that I had an amazing mother who supported that from day one. And she would always tell me to be exactly who I was and to never let anyone tell me that I wasn't good enough the way that I was, not acceptable. She didn't always get it right. She gave me mixed messages too. She was trying to protect me because I was a lot of human. I got into trouble and I didn't fit into any mold, and I sure as hell didn't follow any traditional path in any way. And she would be like, "Oi, Leslie, oi, oi." It's like watching me walk the tightrope and being afraid I was going to fall off. But she would just say, "I got you. I'll catch you if you fall. Don't stop walking the tightrope. Just I'll catch you if you fall." And it was not easy. It was not easy to be me for a lot of years. The world tried to do to me what it tried to do to everybody else. And I just fought and fought and fought and fought because some part of me understood at the end of the day, it was going to be easier to hold on to it than it was going to be to try and get it back.
Awesome.
And I knew that I couldn't live without it. I knew that for sure. So,
Okay. All right.
know,
Another question for you, Leslie.
yeah.
On a daily basis, what toolkits do you use to check your swagger? Like, how do you assess if you're still walking in your truth and your authenticity, or if you're succumbing to the culture around you?
I always look for whether what I say and do is in alignment with what I think and feel. If there's a lot of stuff going on the inside of me that I'm not expressing on the outside, or if I'm acting in a way that is counter to what's happening in my brain, then I know that things are out of whack. And I go, check yourself, girl. Get back. I will even in those events, because I'm a badass, I will even go and have a do-over. If something happens in a meeting or a situation and I go, I was full of shit in that meeting, or I wanted to say things, but I didn't because I was worried that they wouldn't like it or they wouldn't find it acceptable or they wouldn't, all that kind of stuff. I will get back on the phone and say, I want to have a little do-over. Because they were, like I left feeling like I didn't, I didn't do this justice or I didn't speak my truth. And I just want you to know that. I'll sometimes do it in an email or do whatever. And I always get positive response to that. I think having those kind of do-overs, little mini do-overs are great in this life. It proves to you that you can do that and bad things don't happen. It's a way to deal with the insecurity and the fear, and also alleviates the pressure to always have to get it right in the moment. We don't always get it right in the moment, shit happens. Life happens, everything happens. And I think you need to, one of the things that I do is I go back and say, hey, I didn't like that. I wasn't happy with that, with me, or with how this went for us as a collective. I didn't like that. So I'll do that. So that's something that I do. I also try and really be kind to myself when my swagger slips. Because I got days just like everybody else. I got days I don't want to get out of bed. I got days when I go, what? Just like everybody. And what I've learned is that is the old story talking. That's the pain talking. That's the memory. That's the problem with pain is pain is not what's happening in the moment. It's the memory. So I go, oh, it's the memory talking. It's not what's happening right now. So just be kind to yourself and with yourself. Things that I do too is when I'm feeling crappy, when I'm feeling like my swagger is not in on full tilt, I go help somebody. I reach out to somebody and I give of myself because it reminds me of what a badass I am. It's kind of selfish, but smart. Because it reminds me of just how much stuff I have to give to other people. They get something out of it, and I walk away going, "Look what I did! Yay me! I did something." That's to me is like it's one of the because you're just contributing to positivity, but you're reminding yourself of just what a badass you are. There's a million exercises in the book, so that's what it's there for. It's to hold your hand like a little Sherpa to walk you through every blocker and every situation and every scenario. I got exercises on practicing speaking your truth because it does not come naturally for everybody. And so we practice just like everything else. We won't get it right every time, but we'll get better at it and so on and so forth. So there are so many little things that you can do on a regular basis. There are big things that you can do. There are ways that you can practice. I'm telling you, it is so achievable and so attainable and so doable. And so when I have a day, I just go, meh, it'll be there tomorrow. I'm gonna get into bed now. Netflix, big bowl of goldfish, because that's my snack of choice. And I just let it pass. I just let it pass because I know it's coming back.
Yeah. I think that this was just so great. Like so many nuggets. And I love the fact that you said that pain is the memory talking. For me, like that is going to echo in my head for quite a while, because just thinking about that, the diagram that you showed to us, like the things that keep us in is the fear, is the pain. And then once we recognize that that is not what is happening right now, that's just the memory of what we've been through in the past that is holding us, then we begin to break free. Thank you so much, Leslie. This has been such a heartwarming, this has been such an enlightening session with you. Do you have one last word to drop with us before we close today?
Well, there's a little, where's my copy of my book? It's gotta be somewhere. Okay. So if you look at the cover of my book, you'll see there's a little secret message hidden in there. So the subtitle of the book is Unleash Everything You Are and Become Everything You Want. But can you see what's written there in yellow?
Yes.
Can you see that? What does it say? Chidima, what does it say?
You are everything.
You are everything. You already have everything that you need. You don't need to go and find your swagger out there somewhere. It is already within you. And everything you are is good enough. And everything you are is acceptable. And everything you are is powerful. You just have to decide to accept it. And once you do, you become unstoppable.
Yes.
Unstoppable. Yes. So go get it. Go get it, people. Go unleash that swagger. You are everything.
Yes, I am enough. That was so great to hear. Thank you so much, Leslie. Thank you for sharing space and energy and life with us today. This was 1 hour that definitely is life-changing, and I hope as everyone on this call took away as much as I did. Want to say thank you to everyone for making out the time to be with us today and to join us for this call. We ask that you take a few minutes to complete the post-event survey to stand a chance to win 1 of 2 copies of Leslie's book. So if you want to hear more about Swagger and do all those exercises that Leslie talked about, make sure that you fill in this survey and stand a chance to win a copy of the book. And are you looking to stay connected with Lean In? We invite you to join one of our Lean In circles. Circles are small groups of peers who meet monthly to support, learn, and grow together. You could join an existing circle, or you could even start one in your own organization. For more information, please email us at toronto@leanincanada.com. We also invite you to stay connected with us on social media to get details of our upcoming events and other ways that you can participate in the Lean In community. We're excited about our upcoming male allyship event in November, and we ask that you watch out or follow us for more details. And have an amazing day, everyone. Thank you so much for attending.